is my ongoing goal to be able to support you as the very best way that I can. And in order to do that, I really need to get to know you a little bit better, what your personal needs are for supporting you as a parent on this journey of children with autism, and with your child, what their needs are and what you would like to help them most with. Because there may be many things, but there's usually a few top pieces that are very, very important to you that you know your child is really struggling with and you would like help with. And so in order to find out how I can support you best, I have created a short quiz. It's at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/quiz. And if you take that short quiz, you'll be able to give me some information and I'll get back to you with some results and how I can direct you to the resources that I feel would help you best right now for where you are on this journey and for what you need for your particular specific child's needs. So I hope it's helpful. Again, go to naturallyrecoveringautism.com/quiz. Hi there and welcome back again. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I'm so happy that you're here with us and getting the resources that you need to help your children to get the absolute best results possible for them, whatever that may be. I once being told that my son could not recover from his symptoms of autism, and as many of you know my story, it took me 10 years of research and trial and error, but as I continue to educate myself on the causes behind autism, and the many of them, and what could be done, I was able to successfully recover my son from his symptoms. And I know every child's level of recovery is different, but we have children who, again, were getting D's and F's, now they're getting A's and B's. Others who were told, parents were told their children would never speak, and today they're completely verbal. They're getting good grades in school. They're having social abilities and friends. And this is what it's about, is improving their quality of life. Today's show episode, I have a couple of very important guests with us. I'm really excited about this show. It is going to be around, we've talked a little bit about before about electromagnetic field pollution, but we're going to go into depth a little bit further today with a resource that can actually help to harmonize that. And what we always want to do is just be open to the education and how it feels to us and an understanding of what possibilities it can offer. And then we're going to do our very best to explain this. And I'm actually going to have, we have Jeff and Clayton here with us. And the company is actually called Focused Life Force Energy. And that in itself does give you some information. It's about really a higher consciousness ability, but further resources that can help, again, to protect us, because we know there is scientific data that electromagnetic field pollution allows pathogenic bacteria in the body to thrive, even up to as much as 600 times more if it's not in the presence of electromagnetic field pollution, and how much it affects the cells of our body and our health. And so this is a way, what we're going to share with you today is a solution that can help offer you something. We're going to educate you further, but something that can offer you some more guidance on that protection and what you can do for your child and for your entire family. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jeff and Clayton to you. And Jeff and Clayton, why don't we, and we'll have to decide who I'm directing things to here. Why don't we start out in the very beginning with kind of square one? Many people are not aware of even the harm of 5G or electromagnetic field. And so can you maybe give a little bit of background about that and its effects on our health and our life? And then we'll go into further about, FLFE and what it offers.
Well, I can start and hand it off to Clayton. So, what our expertise is around environments. So the FLFE service is a high consciousness environment, which is similar to what you might experience in a cathedral or a mosque or a synagogue or somewhere where people are praying all the time. There's that kind of feeling when you walk into a place like that has an energetic feel to it, kind of an uplifting feel. So when we first started encountering EMFs and their effects on the environment, we were looking at properties on the FLFE service and seeing a degradation in, what we call life force energy or in consciousness of the location. And so we have a unique way of measuring that. And we were seeing from customers that they were noticing their space, their house didn't feel as well, and they had brain fog or other things that were causing them their quality of life to go down. And so they would call into the office and let us know that they felt something was different. And when we would investigate with them, there was often a new cell tower across the street, or a smart meter that was just installed, or they just got a new router and they put it for convenience under the bed. Those kind of things people do because they don't realize, well, where can I put it where it's out of the way, and they were noticing a difference in their environment. It didn't feel as well. There were negative effects. And there's quite a lot of information on the web about the effects of EMFs and in particular 5G, how those, particularly the millimeter wave, is affecting our cells, because we just have to think about it all. We're in an environment all the time. All around us, our devices are, we see also consciousness levels or environments related to people's moods, or like we said, similar to a cathedral or a place like that, or you go into a very low spot where you're looking over your shoulder because you don't feel good, that there's an interaction between that, the consciousness levels, and the EMF effect on the body. And so that's where we're coming from. We're not medical. We don't have medical research. That's not our expertise on the effects of EMFs. We're really looking at the effect on an environment.
Yeah, this is Clayton. So when we were exploring how our service positively affects environments, especially as it relates to EMFs, because as Jeff said, we would have customers calling us and saying that the home didn't feel as well as it did before. And we also were using a technology called kinesiology, or muscle testing, to measure the level of consciousness of a home. Now, the protocols that we use were developed by Dr. David Hawkins, and he has a map of consciousness, and I'm sure we'll talk about that today. And with our service, the intent is to create an environment of unconditional love, much like the cathedrals that Jeff talked about. I guess maybe for your audience, Karen, it might be the feeling that you have if you went over to your loving grandmother's house on Sunday for dinner, and everybody was having a good time. And there's kind of a sense of peace and acceptance and, tolerance and joy, actually, in connecting with each other. And that's a high consciousness field. You can use many different ways of describing it and many different ways of measuring it. And most of us lay people, grandma's house on a Sunday afternoon would probably be as good as examples we could come up with. There are cathedrals and pilgrimage sites around the world that have historical, track records of having helped people heal. And when you heal an environment or help an environment, it not only helps the children, but it helps the parents. And I imagine in your conversations about helping people transition out of the symptoms of autism, self-care for the parents would very likely be in your conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. The pressure on parents is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Not only just the stress and the worry and the fear, but the challenges that go along. And there is a lot of fear of from parents with children with autism, of who will care for my child if something happens to me. and making sure, wanting the best for your child, that you conceive, you go through pregnancy, you have this baby, and you have this ideal picture of your, child being happy and healthy. And they're, not always that way with autism, and the challenges that come along can be very stressful, and 24/7 there's not a lot of relief from it. And so that's why, I guide people through the resources I offer to help, based on the success I had with my own son after I was told that nothing could help him. And fortunately, I didn't just listen to that and believe it. I wanted to educate myself further. And so that's what I like to do. And what we're doing here is educating on resources that can be beneficial. And I think I truly believe, and I've seen that electromagnetic field pollution is a part of the autism problem, the autism epidemic. And so if we can help to harmonize that in some way with these very, very sensitive children, then they can live better lives. So why don't we start a little bit further, go into a little bit more depth now about what I termed this earlier in the podcast. FLFE is what we will refer to it as. It's focused life force energy. So FLFE is the acronym, and what we can go ahead and term it for the rest of the show. But FLFE is something that, as you mentioned, you can talk about the Hawkins map and how this works, because the other products and things that I've used for electromagnetic field protection or harmonization in the past have been something you have to actually have on your phone, have on your computer, wear on your body. And that can be, challenging to always have that on you. But this offers something that's a bigger scope, and I find a lot easier. So I know it's a little challenging to explain, but if one of you could sort of take the reins there and try to do your best with just sharing this new knowledge.
Yeah, I could start. And there is some GDV camera research about the effect of EMFs and maybe why it's so stimulating to these kids and to all of us, really. So the FLFE environment, it's a new technology that we discovered through inventors that have been working on it for almost a decade, 7 years. And when Clayton and I came on the scene, almost 9 years ago now, Clayton.
Oh, well, yeah, we actually came on the scene about 9 years ago. We had the company around 8. Yeah.
What we discovered is that through a quantum association, that a consciousness field, this isn't a frequency, a consciousness field can be activated remotely. So, originally there was pieces of paper that were going into this device that were with a unique identifier that was creating this field or this connection between the system, the FLFE system, and a location anywhere in the world. And so it's very similar to what happens in human consciousness. So if you think of someone, like you're thinking of someone and they call you, seconds later. Many of us have had that experience over and over. That's an example of someone is thinking of you, there's a field activated, and now you think of them. There's a connection between the two of you. Parents and children, particularly mothers and children, there's research around that connection, that instantaneous connection through any distance, that parents know when something is going wrong with their children. That is another example of this quantum connection. So it is outside of mainstream science in some ways, but it fits in with the quantum action at a distance, where with paired electrons move to different sides of the Earth, and the spin of one electron changes, the other one instantly changes. That there is this quantum field connection that is instantaneous and has no distance. So that's the basic of FLFE. Is there's a unique identifier. It's an address for the FLFE service for a home or business, and it's a cellular phone number or a photograph is the unique identifier for the FLFE Everywhere service, which creates this environment around a moving phone or object. So what the GDV, there's GDV research on the website. We have an evidence page, and we also have an EMF mitigation page that might be, a good thing for you to check out. So this GDV camera is a gas discharge visualization. It's very sensitive. It can look at energies that are difficult to measure. And in an environment, we did two experiments, one with 5G and one with just traditional EMF environment. In those environments, there were so many, the GDV camera picks up lots of up and downs, lots of spikes. Routers come on, routers turn off, cell phones power up. It's a spiky, energetic environment. And so for many people, for myself in particular, there's this feeling of tension or anxiety. And that is like overstimulation of the body. And in situations where people are already close to being overstimulated, that 5G stimulation that you can see in the GDV camera study, it can push you over the edge, I believe. And for me, I feel it in a tension in my body. And when I turn FLFE on with the EMF mitigation, I can feel myself relax and I can take a much deeper breath. And that's what we hear reported over and over. And we did it when we launched this EMF mitigation for our service. We didn't have it from the beginning, but we saw the effect of these new cell towers and smart meter banks that was degrading the environment. So we added this EMF mitigation to the service. We discovered a way to do it, to harmonize. So we had a whole group of EMF sensitives that were already on the service. And when we added this, we did a study with them. We saw reduced anxiety, increased sleep, a reduction in brain fog. There's a number of things on that study. And we're right in the middle of a larger EMF study with EMF sensitives through a professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
My daughter is actually so sensitive that when she, like say a big box store like Target or something that has those electric doors, that when she goes through them, her teeth hurt. She's always been that way her whole life. She's 21 now. Yeah, she's extremely sensitive. And she's in college in Los Angeles right now. So I was thrilled about this because I got her something for her phone, but she's like, it's too bulky. It doesn't fit in my phone case. And I'm like, I don't care. And so it's nice that I was able to put FLFE on her phone. And that's another thing that you might want to mention again is you can have this put onto a phone, because most of us carry our phones around, or onto your home, which then affects everybody in the home. And then for maybe a child with autism, somebody who doesn't have a phone and they leave their home, then you mentioned there can be put on an object that maybe they wear or have around them. So what do you suggest for that type for those types of solutions?
Well, basically it's whatever the child will wear or what they like. So we're always experimenting with EMF devices. I have a couple here on my desk. There's one that I'm playing with, right? And I have this that I wear occasionally. It's got different beads on it.
Okay, so a necklace or a bracelet.
Necklace, something like this. Okay. This is another one. Mm-hmm. So necklace, bracelet, a coin, some little keepsake that you like, a rock, Mm-hmm. And you just, there's instructions on the website. You put it on a piece of white paper, white background, and you take a picture of it, and someone checks it at the office to make sure it's going to associate with the technology. And then there'll be a 300-foot bubble around that object. So it's quite large. Mm-hmm. Now, the service isn't the same for a moving object as it is for a home, because the moving object, there's a lot of, so when you have a high consciousness field, what we discovered is that you can make requests to divinity, we'll call it, in the field. So part of the reason why a pilgrimage site may be a high consciousness area or a cathedral is because of the beauty of it. the architectural design. It could be on a ley line in the earth where there's energies in the earth, and some of them form into kind of concentrated lines, if you will, very much like the meridian system in the body, and some of those cross. And if you do any research on the history of where they build churches, oftentimes they'll put the pulpit where the priest is talking from, or in other traditions, whatever ceremony they're doing, who's ever talking is at that crossification spot for positive energy. And so when you have these places that are naturally high consciousness, you also have the thoughts of the people that have been there, that accumulate in the environment. And so those thoughts in pilgrimage sites and cathedrals and churches, synagogues, even, a loving home, their thoughts of care and concern for each other, their thoughts of tolerance, compassion, patience, understanding, love, of course. And those are what we call programs. And when we go into a loving home or a loving environment, some people are more sensitive than others. For example, your daughter, she might be a canary for you if you were going around to visit people's homes. She's like, okay, what are you feeling? Because if she's that sensitive, she might have levels of discernment that most of us wouldn't have. That could be a gift of hers.
She definitely has that.
Yeah, that's my sense. That's my assumption. So we call those programs. So your daughter would be very sensitive to picking up the qualities of an environment. So we make requests to divinity in this environment that we ask that, parents respect the individuality of a child as it grows up, and that the child respects the effort that, the parent makes to provide for them, and that particularly between the son and the father, or the son and the mother, and the son or the daughter and the father, and the daughter and the mother, whatever your family dynamic is, we make requests that they all respect each other in ways that you would say, oh yeah, that'd be really nice if that happened. So we make all these requests in the environment, thousands of lines of requests. And this is part of what creates the quality of the environment. It's just part of what creates that, not only that nice feeling that you get at a synagogue or a church or a pilgrimage site, or your grandmother's house if she's a nice grandmother. There is something more than just having a clean home that's well maintained. There's a lovingness to it that comes with people sharing, good times and kindness. So that's a little bit of a sidestep, but that's part of what helps, because we're talking about EMF mitigation, and I'll go into harmonization in just a minute. But what helps people be more resilient to EMFs are happy, healthy people. And a high consciousness field increases our capacity to be happy and healthy. And happy, therefore healthy, probably. Yes. Or happy, therefore more likely to be healthy. So when we're talking about harmonizing, it's interesting you use that word, because when we're talking about EMFs and EMF sensitivity, there's several ways to manage it. One is you can try to create a technology to block it, so it just reflects back, right? Another is you can try to dissipate it, so as it comes in, it is kind of broken up and its effect is diminished. Another is you can try to deflect it into a certain place, because if you just deflect it, you don't want it to be concentrated on somebody else. You want to deflect it maybe into the earth or someplace that you believe it will be neutralized. And the other idea is to take it and harmonize it. So harmonizing to us means that you make that incoming influence a positive influence. And the only material that we know of in existence that does that is shungite, the only one. So what we discovered is a way to put the energetic essence of shungite into the environment. Now, in Chinese medicines, they use shungite for medicine. So we have a way of sort of infusing shungite into the environment, or the energetic signature of it, the energetic essence, so that when the EMFs are coming in, that they are actually turned into a positive influence instead of you just trying to deflect them and get rid of them. And the gas discharge visualization study that's on our website, I think, reflects that. If you look at the charts, as Jeff mentioned, you can see there's a very spiky line where there's EMFs in the environment. And then when you turn the FLFE surface on, it's very minimal, the perturbations. So it's more harmonious. And well, I have friends that have taken plants and put them along, and I haven't done this myself yet because I don't have a bank of smart meters, but you might want to try this, Karen, or maybe some of your people in your community. You take a plant and put it in front of a smart meter, and especially in a dark room, because then you don't have the influence of sunlight. And typically the plant will shrivel and move away from the smart meter. If you take a piece of shungite and tape it on the smart meter, what my friends have found is that the plant will start growing towards the smart meter.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And like you have and I'll link to all of these things we're discussing in the show notes too, but Dr. Emoto's work with water. He's done this with FLFE as well. Yes, or his son.
His son, yes.
His son, yes. Yeah, I mean, and you could see the regularity of the crystal, in that environment with that FLFE environment on the water. Mm-hmm. But we also do have in the evidence page a wheatgrass experiment with 5G, with a very powerful 5G gaming router. And you can see it in the experiment right behind the plants. So we have one with FLFE and one without. So you can see the difference in the plant growth. And we also have this is not an EMF experiment, but we have a spinach experiment where we had, almost a 30% increase in growth in the FLFE environment compared to not. And we just finished round one of a large farm study in Saskatchewan, Canada. And we saw an average of 24% increase in bushels per acre for this farm in the FLFE environment. So we're seeing a large increase in plant growth in the FLFE environment, which is just an indicator of the positivity of the environment and as Clayton said, the positive influence of high consciousness field on the vitality of an organism, in this case, plants. And we see it in humans, and we see it in many of the testimonials, and including brain function, and where there's more energy there. And this is well known in Chinese medicine that it isn't just the energy from what you eat. There's also energy in what you breathe. There's energy flowing through your body in these meridians. And that when you have more energy, more life force energy of any kind, like when you do feng shui in a house, it has more life force energy. It is a higher consciousness that the body takes that energy up and uses it for well-being, and that's then helps protect us from EMFs and maybe can help us do other things as well.
A lot of kids today are gaming or have more screen time. They're on their computers, iPads. A lot of parents will write in and say, my membership especially, my child's having trouble sleeping at night. I noticed, especially if they've been on their iPad right before they go to bed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are a lot of reasons for that. You need to make sure that, try to get them off of it before bedtime. Because why don't you talk about some of the things you've seen? People who have been in more depressive type states are getting happier. People who are having trouble sleeping are sleeping better. Or this is big for children with autism, or for their parents especially. There's a better sense of just calmness too. So maybe you could elaborate on some of those types of results and things that you've seen.
There is a testimonial page on the website, and it has a fraction of what we hear, but it's a good place to go and search and look around. And there's quite a number of accounts, particularly from parents, about siblings, getting along much better than they did before. and parent-child relationships kind of moving to a new level of love. So the FLFE environment is at an unconditional love level and on the Hawkins map, which is, the proverbial grandmother's house on Sunday. So the effect on depressive people, and now this is not medical research, though we have a research team and it's maybe something we get to, but we do have accounts of customers and you can see them there. One particular one was very touching. It was a boy that was in a car accident. It might have been motorcycle or car accident, paralyzed from, someplace down, his legs and the lower part of his body was paralyzed. Became very depressed, wouldn't get out of bed. I mean, literally months, wouldn't get out of bed. His sister put on the FLFE environment and she came home the next day and he was in his wheelchair out in the sun. And she said it was a miracle. She'd never, he hadn't done that for months. And so there's something about having more higher consciousness field that the lower consciousness parts of us start to rise to meet that. And that's, we have several, examples of children in those kind of not quite that bad of state where they're almost catatonic, but re-engaging due to being in an environment that uplifts them.
It's really surprising how this can be done at such a distance. I mean, really, you can set this up anywhere in the world. I know that some locations in some countries, the home base may have a different geographical reading or whatever, based on its address, but anybody can put it on their phone anywhere. I mean, is it sort of, is this based sort of on quantum physics?
Based on, we call it quantum association.
Okay.
Very much like, humans, we forget how amazing we are. And it's easy to take our gifts for granted when we think about somebody on the other side of the planet, and then all of a sudden they call us. That is what we would call quantum association. So that is a very similar principle that the technology is based on. And I'll speak for myself personally. We've been doing this for just about 9 years now. I think at one point we were in 60 countries for sure. I think we might have been in 80 at one point, but we've been around a while. We have thousands and thousands of customers. It's a well-established business. And sometimes I wonder how it works. It's just kind of awe-inspiring. I know my mother's been thinking about me the last few days. I just know, and this is the way it is. And then she's going to call me, or I'm going to call her next couple of days. And, we just grew up like that. And it's kind of amazing.
We get desensitized as we get older. We were born that way. And as children, we still have it. But then society kind of removes us from it a little bit. So, yeah, it's sort of just bringing us back to home or who we are.
And because it is out of the box in some ways compared to mainstream science, and it's emerging science, what's called frontier science. We have a research team, and Dr. Gary Schwartz is one of our researchers. And this area of frontier science, often the results precede the theory, the complete theory. And that's where we are. And it's why we have the free trial. We have a free trial. It's 2 weeks. There's no credit card. There's no obligation. You have to work to subscribe, which people do. But you can get on and you can just try it. And when you sign up, you get a control panel, and you can completely control the environment. You can turn it up, turn it down, turn it off. You can turn off the EMF mitigation part of it and see how you feel and turn it back on. And that type of personal experience is what we need with these new technologies. And you don't want to have to pay, hundreds of dollars to try it and then find out that you don't feel like it works for you. Because we can turn it on and off at a distance. A free trial is perfect. People can try it. There's no product that has to be shipped. And people have experiences in that first 2 weeks. We have a private Facebook group that people talk about their experience and what's occurring for them. And we have a sort of a team of experienced subscribers who come on and help them. But yeah, we see very often sleep enhanced, where people say, I've just gotten the best night's sleep I've had in years. Anxiety reduced, brain fog reduced. Those are things that get reported over and over and that we've seen in the research that we've done. We've just completed 16 benefits, research on 16 benefits that were reported by customers. And then we did a scientific study, a retrospective survey, and Dr. Gary Schwartz did the analysis of it. That's on the website now. But just the free trial is the way to go, just to try it and see.
I will link to on the show notes, which will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/149. I will link to many of these resources that we talk about on the post page there. And I have a direct link to the website, which is naturallyrecoveringautism.com/safe, SAFE. I thought that was a good choice. But you have a chance to look at more of this. There are some scientific pieces that you can look at. There are examples, testimonials, and again, the free trial, which is huge. I mean, 2 weeks of being able to try it. Again, no credit card. You don't have to put something up and then remember to cancel or anything like that. It's just, you can try it and see if you feel the difference. Or what I'd love to know about is what differences you might notice, especially in your child with autism, because I really see this as something that can be so beneficial. We work with the environmental toxins, the pathogens, the co-infections, all of these things that are affecting them. There is so much bombarding them, and that they're already overwhelmed, and they are like the canaries of the world. And this is a way for these ultra sensitive kids to be able to, I believe, have some type of safety, some sense of protection and balancing around these things that can help to possibly disperse some of these things that are coming at them, and help them come back to a more peaceful and healthier state of life. So it is like you mentioned, happier and healthier people, and that's really what it's all about. So I think this is so important. Is there anything else that you either of you would like to share at all before we wrap up, or anything else you think would be valuable for our listeners to hear?
I would just point to the research with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, or IONS, that we did in their discovery lab, where they had people coming into the lab that were signed up for the experiment, and they were doing cognitive tests with them. And so they did cognitive tests before, and then they activated the FLFE environment, and then they did cognitive tests after that, after a certain period of time in that environment. And the subjects all had EEG wires. Every part of the brain was monitored. And they saw across the board, all parts of the brain had an increase in alpha waves, which is the calm, creative, sort of, productive brain waves. And we also saw an increase in executive function. So there were particular tests to see that, and there was an increase there. And it's a small sample size, and follow-up studies are coming next, but that's an indicator of some evidence. And then we have a lot of experience from parents saying the kids are better at doing their homework, they're actually doing better in school, and it's less of a struggle doing homework. That they're tired at the end of the day. Maybe they've done school, and then they've done sports, and then they're trying to do homework, that in that FLFE environment, they have, more energy to work with, and they're able to complete their homework with less anxiety and fuss.
That would make any parent happy. And the child, for sure. I know that is agonizing to even watch them to be, struggling through it as well. And it's important to note, because you mentioned executive functioning, that the prefrontal cortex, which does executive functioning, part of the brain, is reduced in children with autism. So when we even work with the gut, because the gut directly affects the brain and all of these things, we are working to help the brain function better. So it's nice to hear that FLFE has been shown in this EEG study to increase executive functioning, because that would be very beneficial for a child with autism.
We have a lot of research just because of the nature of the technology. We're looking to get multiple types of research in multiple disciplines in several different ways of analyzing the positive benefits of a high consciousness field. We hope to help other technologies possibly, but other areas of the world that have a history of this, to demonstrate the efficacy of the benefits of the environment in such a way that people's naturally curious minds can relax into the environment, because there's more than reasonable amounts of data gathered about the positive benefits. So, we're somewhat understated. The farm that Jeff talked about, it's a 10,000 acre organic farm. These people have very sophisticated equipment. Each acre can be measured of how much yield off of each acre. And this was in a year of severe drought. So, we spend a lot of the resources of the company gathering this data, and it's actually kind of fun in its own way.
I see the farmers of the world enjoying just doing some personal little experiments with it, and how beneficial it could be for our food sources as well.
Yeah, we're hoping to do nutritional analysis in the future. Not only the quantity, we had a 54% germination and or increase in seed germination from a very small study, but there's things like that that are very promising. And we also want people to trust themselves more than anything. We want to see people be empowered. So try the service, and if it works for you, great. It's very reasonably priced. It's like $35 a month US. And if it doesn't work for you, that's okay too. You can't get billed by accident. You actually, as Jeff said, you have to work to get on the service, because that's what we would want for ourselves. We're all busy, we try stuff and we forget, and then all of a sudden we check our credit card statement. It's like, oh God, thought I canceled that, and so.
There's also a $15 service that you can get on your phone as well. And one thing that was nice in my free trials, they said, do this 14 or 15 to 2-week free trial on the home one. And then they said, we want to now turn that off and turn it on the phone one, so that you can tell the difference, which I thought was kind of nice too, because I guess, of course, everybody is different. So, you have the option to see what might feel best for your work for you, or work financially best for you, either way. But yeah, it's very reasonable for really what you're getting from it. So yeah, I think the word that you use there, Clayton, that's perfect, is curious, because as long as we're curious, we're open-minded. And again, it's something that you can try for free, and highly encourage you to do it. Again, the show notes will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/149, and all of the links and the studies and everything that you'll need to get to the page to learn everything about it that you want to, and to do the free trial will be there for you. So Clayton and Jeff, thank you so much for being here with us today, and helping to educate us on, again, something that is new, I'm sure, to many, many, if not all of our listeners. And I'm sure it will be something that will, in the future be sort of mainstream. But I don't know, I always seem to be on that early edge of things when I'm trying to tell people, my whole life, we try to tell people something, about something that, later on becomes everyday, oh yeah, but back then, it was, everybody's kind of like, what are you talking about? So here I am again, just one more time in my life. So again, thank you, both of you, for being here today and sharing this with you, and really what you're offering everybody in the world to hopefully create, a more loving environment and more peace. And our world needs more of that today in many, many ways. So I really hope that this can help to inspire that.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen, for taking the time to interview us.
It's my pleasure. All right, thanks again. We'll talk soon. Take care. Bye for now.